When you think of the journey you've been on the last couple of years, it's been such a beatdown that it's hard to imagine making any good decision. I really want you to be radically open-minded as I share this because it's easy for you to say, look, I'm doing great. I'm running my business. I'm having all this stuff. I'm getting a lot of stuff done. You really don't know how many great decisions you're actually making. You just know you're making a lot of decisions. And we don't know if they're great until something happens later on, good or bad. We think they're great decisions because we're used to making lots of decisions. But I feel that the level of burnout that most people have experienced in the last couple of years and the sheer exhaustion that most of us are facing today is actually affecting our ability to make good decisions. Every one of you carries this really heavy burden for your teams and your desire to care for your customers and your investors and your families. And with all that, you're supposed to be able to walk into every situation and make great decisions and lead the team to victory. And that's really hard. And the reality is nobody does care. They just expect you to do it, so you do it. And that's why I wrote this book, Nobody Cares Until You Do. And that's the whole premise of what I want to talk to you about today is how are you teeing yourself up to make great decisions? Salem Thine is one of my group members, and together we wrote this book. And in order to make great decisions, you need to create some room to think clearly. You need to take a look at your life and be willing to change the things that drag you down or hold you back. This book is about accountability because in accountability, a simple version of that is you own it and nobody's going to do it for you. Of course, you know that as a business owner, you deal with that all the time. So back to the question about great decisions. How many great decisions do you think you can make in a day? 5, 68, 231, 1,000? I mean, there must be a limit, right? So let's just say for the sake of our discussion, it's 23. Let's say you can make 23 great decisions in a day. So imagine this. You wake up after a wonderful night's sleep in your beautiful house that's completely paid for, and it's a modern home, and you get a kiss from your spouse and hugs from the kids as you stroll out the door for work that day. You get in your fully paid for car, new sports car, and you enjoy an easy drive to work with no traffic into your air-conditioned office. As you walk in, you see flowers from your team thanking you for being such a great boss. You sit in your chair. That always gets laughs when I present that. I don't know what's going on in your world, but it is funny. As you sit in your chair, you listen to voicemails from clients who call to say how much they love working with your company. You go to check emails, but there's only 4, one of which is from your CFO telling you the books are closed for the year and it's record profit for the 4th year in a row. So now go into a team meeting and make some of those 23 great decisions. Now here's reality. You're rudely woken up early in the morning by a trash truck backing into your mailbox again, after only getting 3 hours of sleep because your dog is facing his last days. Your spouse is still mad at you for the stupid fight you had last night, again, and the kids haven't been talking to you much since they got new phones. You hop into your car hoping it starts, and you hurry off to work so you can spend an hour in traffic and arrive late to a job site where the team stands around looking at you like a mutinous crew on the Titanic. You try to have a short safety meeting because OSHA wrote up the team last week again, but your phone keeps lighting up from calls from angry customers who aren't happy with your service. On the way to your next meeting, you look at your phone, there's 378 unread emails and a text from the CFO that says we may not make payroll this week again. You finally arrive to the office for a meeting with the board and you're late as usual. Now, make 23 great decisions. Make 10 great decisions. Will you make even 1? We have found out that being satisfied will help you make better decisions. That's one of the reasons we wrote this book. We want to teach people to own their actions and help them live the life they really want. And that starts with personal accountability. I'm going to walk you through the concepts from our book today so you can take actions to make your life the way you want to live it. Our book takes you on a journey to evaluate your life and see where you're not satisfied and then make plans to change it. Too many people live life as a victim, blaming others, making excuses, saying they just can't do it, or waiting and hoping it gets better. But once you come to the awareness that it's all on you and nobody cares if you succeed or not until you do. Once you care enough to make the decisions and the changes you need to have the life you really want, you're on the path towards moving away from being a victim and to be a victor. Let me say it again. Once you care enough to make the changes you need to have the life you really want, you're on a path to move from a victim to a victor. I did it. I'll share some of my stories that are in the book in hopes that it will inspire you to start today. We explain this journey. It's like the idea of climbing a mountain. Becoming more accountable in life is a process of intentional decisions, and it takes effort and time, like climbing a mountain. Most people are unaware what it means to be truly accountable, and that's where the book begins. Unaware at the base of the mountain. They live life as a victim of the world they live in, and they're not experiencing the joy and freedom of owning it. Most of us have become so comfortable with excuses and putting the blame on the world around us. We don't see ourselves as victims until someone points out, hey, this one's on you. Here's an important note. Nobody can hold anyone accountable. We can only do that for ourselves if we really want it. I mean, I can ask you the question with the intention of helping you be accountable, but you could lie. And many times we do. We show up with our charts that talk about our business, and we only show the parts that really make us feel good about ourselves. And we ignore that looming problem that we really don't want to talk about. And then no one has a chance to help you be accountable. I can also be bold and honest with you and with the people in my groups, and I can challenge them to wake up and see the opportunity for a better life. But if at the end they don't want it and they don't want to be accountable, I can't make them. We put this assessment in our book to help people take an honest look at their life and see where they're not satisfied. It's a reality check to see how satisfied are you in your work and your personal life. It's a great way for you to document where you are today and to motivate you to make the changes. This assessment should be scored in light of where you really want your life to be like. You may become complacent in some areas or even given up. For example, think about your marriage. How could your marriage be versus where it is today? And then score that. Most problems that don't get dealt with don't get better. So this satisfaction chart is a tool that helps our readers throughout the book. They go back and check it at the end of every chapter, and we take them through different parts to use this as a tool for seeing where they want to make change. If you want to get a full-size copy of this sheet, you can download it at nobodycaresbook.com. As people step back and look at their business and their personal life, most are quick to blame other people for the things that happen. This is the first step of climbing the mountain. We blame our parents, we blame our teachers, our bosses, our spouses, our employees, the government, even God. Blame doesn't fix anything. It just makes us mad. And when we blame others, we give them the power over us. But if it's my issue, I have the power to change it. That's where I was in 2019. I'd been leading CEO peer groups since 2013, but I was really struggling to build a stable business. Some years were up, some years were down, but the consistent theme was I lived beyond my means. Over the years, I built up $90,000 in debt that I owed the government and on credit cards. Every year we thought things will turn around the corner next year, but they did not. I would always blame one thing or another for the lack of success. At one point, I even blamed God for not taking good care of us. Can you imagine the audacity of blaming God? In September of that year, I had vertigo for 16 days, and I wondered, how would I ever survive if I could never work again? It was at that point that my wife, Kathy, and I decided that we should sell our house and start over. We listed the house and began to sell all the furniture off, things that would never fit in our small rental home that we were looking to move into. But it was the start of me being truly accountable for my life. There was no one to blame but me for making poor choices. I started moving up the mountain to a life of accountability, freedom, and peace. But it was hard. Along the way, before we decided to sell the house, we did what most people do to avoid accountability. We made excuses. Excuse is the evil twin of blame, and it holds us in a victim role. I don't have enough money. I was stuck in traffic. My employees are lazy. We don't like when other people use excuses, but we use them all the time. I guess the only difference is that ours are valid. Excuses seem like a quick fix to get the issue off your back, but all it does is remove a reason to try. My excuse was that I was not good at sales, and that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Can't grow business without selling it, and it was outside my comfort zone, which is another word for fear. So I'd write a blog, or I'd send out a newsletter, or I'd post something on LinkedIn. What I needed to do was to pick up the phone and call a business owner and talk to him about our peer groups. So in 2020, I decided to enroll in a Sandler sales training with the local leader here, Frank Gustafson. And I learned the skills required to understand what my clients need and how I could serve them. It turns out I'm really good at sales. I just had to change something. So when blame and excuses don't take off, then they'll take the heat off of us. We give up and we declare, well, I just can't. I can't afford to take a job that I really, really love because it pays me less than I want to live on. What we say when we say we can't, we actually mean we won't. We won't do the things required to make the changes because it's hard. Hard, yes. Impossible, no. Very few things are impossible. We just don't know how to do it yet. When things seem impossible, you just need to know exactly what impossible looks like and then start there. We've been talking about this a lot in our groups. This last year, we come to a meeting and everyone says it's impossible to get inventory. It's impossible to find good employees. It's impossible to have enough cash to float us till we get paid. And we started saying, when we say impossible, stop, wait, what's another word for impossible? Oh, it's really, really hard. Okay, well, what does impossible look like? Let's work on that. There's a movie called The Rescue. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Actually, it's on a National Geographic channel. We watched it on the Disney Plus channel. Basically, it's these kids stuck in a cave in Thailand, and the waters had flooded the cave. Miles in, they couldn't get the kids out. 20 days into it, they're running out of air. They're starving to death. And the local community says, this is impossible. And one of the Navy SEALs says, wait a minute, what does impossible look like? And when they said what the impossible would be, they defined it, that's what we're going to do. And they set out to accomplish it. So for me, it was impossible to get out of debt. But what that really meant, it was too hard to imagine selling my beautiful home with the movie theater upstairs and all these other possessions we had, and then having to awkwardly talk about why I'm selling my house to my friends. That was awkward, but it wasn't impossible. By the way, the first person in your industry who figures out to do the impossible, they win. Lots of things are hard in life, like bombs dropping on you if you live in Ukraine. That's hard. Nick Vujicic has no arms and no legs, but he hasn't let that stop him. This is his beautiful family. God is using him to tell the world that Jesus uniquely makes each one of us, and he loves us enough to die for us. Things may be hard, but it won't get done if you don't try. Waiting and hoping is the last thing that people do as a victim. I did. Oh, maybe next year my business will turn the corner. Maybe writing blogs instead of calling people will lead a business owner to call me out of the blue and say, I want to join your peer groups. Making minimum payments on your credit cards is waiting and hoping. Avoiding a doctor's visit and thinking your blood pressure will just drop even though you haven't done anything to improve it is waiting and hoping. Not addressing a rude and selfish employee that makes work miserable for the rest of your team is waiting and hoping. I said this earlier, but most things you don't do something about don't get better, they get worse. Ask yourself, have I done everything I can do, not just the things I want to do? Most of the time, we know there's more we can do, but we don't want to do it. Like letting go of that bad client or that bad employee because we worry that we won't be able to find another one to replace it. When the pain of staying where you are is worse than the pain of where you're going to go, you will make a change. I had that. The stress of my debt weighed me down so heavy every day. I made decisions in light of that stress, many of which held me back from being my best. Instead of getting rid of the debt, I hoped that somehow I quadrupled my client base overnight and this big windfall would pay off my debt. Shocker, that never happened. It was in 2029 excuse me, 2019, when we decided to take control of our lives and make drastic changes, that things changed. I crossed over from being a victim to being a victor. We say in our groups, in order to do something you've never done before, you need to do something you've never done before. At some point in your journey, you're going to decide that the pain of living the life you have today is too much, and you'll be willing to do something about it, and you'll own it. That's accountability. It's like crossing over a crevasse on a mountain on this rickety old ladder as you move from being a victim to a victor. And it starts with one phrase: nobody cares until you do. The reality is, nobody cares what you do with your life unless you care enough to live it intentionally. That's why the book's called Nobody Cares Until You Do. The phrase is what you say to yourself, not to others. That's a really important part of this book. The simple phrase is for you to say to you, not to go around dropping bombs on other people. When you're about to blame something or make an excuse or say you can't or that you tried, so you'll just wait and see, stop and say to yourself, wait, nobody cares. Nobody cares you're stuck in traffic. They care that you made them wait 30 minutes to start a meeting that you set up. Nobody cares that your employees are leaving your company. They care that you've not built a company where people love it so much that they refuse to be stolen away by someone else. You get the idea. Facing the reality of life helps you make great decisions. If you acknowledge reality and you own it, you can lead the changes to create the company and the life that you really always wanted. I'm going to pause here for a second and ask if there's any questions, because that's a lot. Okay. It looks like I've done an amazing job explaining this book so far. Then we should press on, because this is riveting. So once you cross the crevasse from being a victim and the behaviors that hold you back, you're faced with the reality of where you are. Reality is hard, but so is being a victim. When we stopped blaming God, the market, or the franchise, we realized we needed to make drastic changes. We were never going to slowly pay off our debt. We had to start over. We contacted a real estate agent. We started prepping the house to sell it. It was really sad. There were many times that we felt like changing our minds, but we had a vision of what we wanted our lives to be like. We hired a financial advisor, and we told him our plans so he could give us wisdom and tools to create new financial habits. There was lots of emotions in this whole journey. I'm blessed to have an amazing wife who loves God and me and joined me in this journey. Not many people I know have a spouse who believes in them enough and supports them like my wife does. I am very blessed. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it. I'm sure you've heard that before. I grew up in a very low income family with an abusive father. I didn't have a good example of what a man should be like, so there was a big void in my life when I went out on my own. Over the years, I've been through a divorce, bankruptcy, health issues, unemployment. I could be bitter and angry and blame others, but nobody cares. I still have a life to live, and people are counting on me. The stabilizing force in my life has been my relationship with Jesus Christ and my beautiful wife who believes in me. Not everyone shares my faith, and that's okay. It's not my job to convince anyone to believe what I believe. However, it is my job to live out what I believe through my decisions. So my question to you is, are you living out what you believe through your decisions? Now that you've faced reality and the hard truth of where you are, what it will take to get you where you want to be becomes clear. And that might suck. It sucked to sell this house that we loved. It sucked to sell our beautiful furniture for pennies on the dollar. It sucked to have to admit to people I was moving because I didn't manage my finances well and I needed to start over. As the leader of your company, you have to make the tough choices, and people are counting on you, but you're not alone. A wise man gets counsel and is even wiser. You may feel sometimes like you have to know it all, but you don't. That's one of the reasons why you hired all those people. Hopefully, those people think differently than you do. In order to make great decisions, you need to ask for their help and then listen to their input. We're often unaware of the bias we have in our decision-making process. We want something so bad that we ignore the facts that others are sharing with us. Many decisions you make fail because you only consider one opinion, and that's yours. That's the reason why you join Brad's group, so you can get a variety of perspectives to help you make better decisions. But are you being 100% transparent with the group so that you invite the input you need, even if it's uncomfortable input? I've had group members over the years that skipped sharing some content that was awkward for them, and they didn't really want the group to talk about it. They ended up going bankrupt, making really bad decisions, trying to get out of a hole. Why would you join a group and not be completely transparent? My suggestion is you try and get your money's worth out of every meeting by being 100% transparent and open with your group, painfully transparent and open. Not making a decision is the worst thing you can do. As a leader of your company or family, you need to be prepared to take risks. I think the most dangerous risk is spending your life focused on income rather than purpose, with the hope that later on in life you'll have enough money to buy the freedom to chase your purpose. It usually doesn't happen. We are leaders. We take risks, we make decisions, and we own it. Once you stop fighting reality and you embrace the journey, the solutions almost magically appear. I mean, seriously, it seemed magic, but it was because I wasn't able to see other options before and make good decisions when I was saddled with all that debt, stress, and worry. I never thought I could make time to enjoy life because I had to work 7 days a week or I might drown in debt. Once I removed that barrier, though, I could see other areas of my life in a different light. Now that we're debt free, we can save for the future. We can give graciously to other people. We hired an office administrator so I could focus on spending time with our CEOs and having more fun with my beautiful wife. Remember, fun is one of my core values. If it's important enough to make it a core value, I need to chase it. When you change the way you live your life, you have more clarity to make better decisions. The plan that you create to give you the life you really want will be unique to your journey. When I made the decision to get out of debt, I no longer had that hovering over me. I saw things differently. My business went from having 9 clients at the end of 2019 to doubling in 2020 and doubling again in 2021. And it wasn't like I was doing anything much different. I learned to do sales, which is great. But the reality is the head trash was gone. I didn't sit in front of a prospect and beg them to join my group. I didn't need them. I didn't have any debt. If I didn't get any more clients, I was fine. The desperateness went away from me, and the clarity of what kind of leaders I wanted to surround myself with became so clear. I made better decisions in how to run our group meetings. I challenged my clients with more intensity and more candor, because if I lost them as a client, okay, I don't care. I don't have to worry about the money, but I don't want to see them ruin their lives. Like calling out one of my clients who has a drinking problem. That was an awkward conversation, but I love him enough to say, you're ruining your life. Even at the fear that I might lose his friendship or his business, can't not say that, but I didn't have to worry about losing him because I didn't have debt. Anyway, Salem and I wrote this book. We didn't write this book to tell you how to live your life. I mean, we're still learning ourselves. I still struggle to be accountable in many areas of my life. I still make mistakes. I don't have the answers to your problems. You do. I'm just sharing my story to encourage you to be intentional to move from a life of as a victim to being a victor. One thing I think most of us are used to, making lots of decisions. This simple risk matrix can be helpful. I just like this here. It's so easy. One of the challenges of making decisions is that there's too much emotion attached to it. So throw down these 4 little squares and chart out how hard it is to get something done, how likely it is to occur, and what's going to be the most impact in your business. Something like this is very important. One thing I want to add into that thought process is, don't forget, you look at ROI, but look at ROT. What's your return on your time? Because you need to factor in your time when you make decisions. You can always get more money, but you can't get more time. So don't forget to factor in your ROT. The process it took to get out of debt took time and effort, but we stayed focused on our vision of what we wanted our lives to be like. God brought us to a wonderful home in a sweet little neighborhood. We started over and we met lots of great neighbors. One morning I woke up and I sat down to spend time with the Lord. And I had this really strange feeling that I hadn't had in a long time. It was peace. I'd forgotten what that felt like, not to have to worry all the time. I used to wake up and think, no matter how hard I work today, I'm still screwed. But no more. Personal accountability in your business and your personal life is what you want, because it creates satisfaction. And satisfaction creates energy and the clarity to make great decisions. It's worth the journey. And I want to encourage you to take your journey. So we're talking about how to make great decisions. Not living the life that you want really creates stress and affects your ability to make great decisions. And my question to you is, what are you willing to do today to free yourself up to make great decisions? How much longer will you live being unsatisfied with something in your business and personal life? You get to decide what it looks like to work on it, but you should decide, make a decision. One last thing I'll point out is that we're never absolutely sure of anything in life. I believe living out your purpose is the best way to live. Then you can prioritize your opportunities that help you achieve that and enjoy the journey more. Even with a clear mind and thoughtful planning, you will make mistakes. You will fall down. But without a plan to live your life intentionally, you're constantly reacting to whatever comes your way instead of driving the journey forward. Surrounding yourself with others who refuse to be a victim will help you get back up when you fall. Your group can do that if you let them. I'll end my presentation with this thought. The moment that you take accountability for everything in your life is the moment you gain the power to change anything in your life. I hope what I shared with you today will help you make your next big decision. One great decision would be to buy a whole bunch of these books for your team.
That's great.
I'm also more than happy to fly out and spend a day with your team and work with them on this concept. It has been very freeing for me in my life. I've seen it change other people's lives, and we hope it'll do the same for you. That is the end of my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That one guy wasn't clapping.
All right, who was it? He never clapped. So
Hey, Robert, how much was Dave Ramsey an influence in your life?
Actually, the guy who was our coach was a Dave Ramsey coach, and
Right.
he came
Unlike
into
a
our.
gazelle, right?
What's that?
Unlike a gazelle.
He was super structured and helpful. I think the benefit of having a financial coach is that it's really embarrassing to look at how you spend money, but when no one else knows how you spend money, you just get away with wasting it. And you know, we were dropping $15,000 a month, and I look around and go, what do we have? Where's this money going? Quite a bit of it was servicing debt, but still, it was stupid. We moved into this little house here. I have this beautiful office that I built. My client sells modular closets for apartments. So I went to his warehouse during COVID and I got some shelving and put it up here. And, you know, we've learned to adjust to this. This smaller house, I can hear my son breathe in his room down the hall, you know, compared to what our house used to be like. We have one car, we share a car. We could buy another car, but we've spent so many years wasting our money that we need to go back and start investing again. So now that I have a clear mind and I'm making smart decisions and our business has grown so much, we've been able to invest in people's businesses and help startups and put away money and give graciously. We started a giving fund beyond our tithes. We have the joy of just taking money every paycheck and put it away. And then when we hear that someone's hurting, we can just give them money. And it's just so much joy to not think, oh, how do I give someone money when I'm struggling on my own? I think you hold God back from letting you be used for his purposes when you live so tight. There's no time in your life for God. There's no time to be available for what God wants to do. And you certainly can't give money away when you barely make minimum payments. So it's very freeing. So yeah, Ramsey's was awesome. That principle and getting structured was really good.